the volume.
Turn up the volume.
You've arrived at the destination for all things Kentucky. This is the Bleed Blue Network Podcast.
What's up, Big Blue Nation? Welcome to another live show of the Bleed Blue Network. I'm Paul, joined by Jaden and Joe. We are talking about UK basketball, and what a night it was, fellas. To I guess if the exhibition games were the unofficial launch, this was the official launch of the Mark Pope era, and boy, it kind of started with a bang, didn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, it was just exciting to watch. The crowd was electric throughout. The unselfishness of the team. I mean, it was just so exciting. I know we had text strings going, and after the game, it was cool seeing people just tweet in a positive manner for once, and it was just awesome. Excited.
Yeah, game was a lot of fun. I mean, absolutely exploded offensively. Some of the numbers and stuff that we're seeing are obviously not going to continue as the competition increases, but putting those up on anybody is impressive, especially for a team that's only been together for a couple months, really. So I was pretty impressed by game one. I thought they looked really good and really prepared and ready to go.
Jaden, you went to both games. You went to the women's game and you went to the men's game. Give us kind of a little bit of your thoughts being at both opening games for Kentucky basketball as a whole.
Yeah, so I think Kenny Brooks talked in the post-game press conference that this was the last game they scheduled for the women's team. They couldn't find anybody that would play them this early in the season. Nobody would do it. So the only thing they could do was play at the same day as the men, and they hated that, and they felt it was a little unfair to their players, but it was their only option.
I think he froze.
Yeah, he did.
We got to get you some of that Elon Musk internet or something, man, because
I have the highest internet that can be bought, supposedly. That is
maybe
not
it's your
Elon
laptop that
himself.
sucks. You should get a Mac.
Well, that doesn't really work for a college student nearly as well. But
That's what mom and dad's for, isn't it?
Well, I just meant that some of the stuff that you have to do in college, you need some programs and stuff that Mac is not, very convenient for.
What did you?
But anyway,
what did you think about the crowd at Memorial? And what did you think about seeing a game there in the renovated arena?
The crowd was pretty clearly impacted by one early start time because it was a late arriving crowd. It ended up pretty decent. Once
5
kind of people
p.m.
got there. Yeah, it was a little early for people getting off work. So yeah, it was a late arriving crowd. It ended up pretty decent. Game was never competitive. It was, 17-point lead in the first quarter. So there was never really any moment to stand up and get excited kind of, once kind of people filled in outside of just the excitement of the team looking really good. But honestly, it looked a lot like the men's game. The offense was, incredibly efficient. It looked like they were, playing a different sport than some of the teams that we've been watching recently. Shooting all over the floor. Clara Strack in the middle center is a beast. She was dominant. Just absolutely incredible sophomore from followed Brooks from Virginia Tech, and then Clara Silva, the 6'7" freshman from Portugal. She just shoots dirt fades the entire game. She shot 4 dirt fades. The girl did not get an arm within a foot and a half of the ball on any of them. It was ridiculous. And she made all 4 of them. It's impossible to stop. You can't stop it. So she was really exciting to watch. Good defensively. But yeah, honestly, it looked a lot like it. They were way bigger and they blew them up offensively at the very beginning. And it was over from the start, kind of in both games.
When when you got to Rupp, what was that like? It looked like the crowd was definitely better than the exhibition game. Still not, I was a little surprised. It looked like on TV in some of the upper parts, like it wasn't. I mean, it wasn't Louisville bad because that crowd sucked last night. We'll talk a little bit more about stuff around college basketball because there's a lot of actually things to talk about around college basketball from last night. Because it was wild last with some of the games that happened. But were you impressed with the crowd at Rupp? Was it kind of on par with everything we've seen the last couple of years still?
It was, I mean, it was a pretty similar weekday, small school type of game. It wasn't as exciting. Now, I didn't get there until the second half was starting. So I'm sure the beginning of the game with the Pope newness and all of that stuff was exciting. I don't know if they switched around the intros and how all that works or if anything was different there. But, it seemed like a pretty normal game outside of the student section was completely full through the whole game, at least the eruption zone, which I have been going for 4 years. And even the big games, the eruption zones, and, thins out by the time it gets, but it was kind of like an SEC game for the eruption zone, just as far as attendance was, just where people stayed. So that stood out. But as far as the whole stadium, it was, and even the eruption zone being full, it wasn't loud or people were into it. People were into the betting that they had going on, but that was the excitement that we had going on was people around us betting on things.
I feel like I'm out of the loop because I don't bet on sports. I've never really bet on sports. I think the one bet I made was some outlandish bet for the 2000 Super Bowl that Tampa Bay was going to beat Oakland by 21 plus. And the guy was from California and I bet him $100 and he had to come in and give me a C note the next morning because Tampa Bay absolutely beat the doors off of Oakland. I don't know anything else like I've done, I definitely haven't said I'm going to eat, like a cup of shit, like some FSU fans and stuff like that, because goddamn, the internet's forever when it comes to that.
Do you think the kid that was the sacrificial lamb who did it for him actually did it?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think he actually did it either, to be
Nobody's
honest.
eating a cup of shit for Florida State football. Come on, let's be honest with that. Like you might feel like you're eating a whole lot of shit watching them, but they ain't doing that. Last night, so I watched most of the game. It was kind of like, listen, when you have kids, sometimes it's kind of hard to focus, especially with everything going on. And I mean, there's a lot going on in the world right now and stuff or in my world, sorry, not in the world. Well, I guess in the world too, but in my world, just with kids and stuff and wife and her business. And anyway. And so I got to watch most of the game, but I didn't get to intently watch every single second, if that makes sense. But the thing that I think came out most impressed about last night was I was actually shocked at how dominant Amari Williams looked at times through the game yesterday. And I don't know if I didn't think you had it. Now, here's you would never have seen a 6'11", 7-foot guy bringing the ball up the court in a Cal offense ever. And this man is not only bringing it up the court, he is pushing the ball up the court. And he had four, it says on the stat line, he had 4 turnovers. I would say at least 3 of those were guys it was just newness, right? There was one play where Kobe Brea literally, if he got and he's just anticipating he's going to make the cut, and he didn't. And he had a cut. Now he had one that was bad. I remember that was kind of just he tried to force something. But a couple of those turnovers were just, I think, that's where it shows they haven't played together, as much. And that's where you're going to see it. I thought the defensive intensity was a hell of a lot better. That was something I wanted to see. I still am a little worried about the rebounding, but the thing about this team that I like more is the guards rebound way more. And here, it seems like this entire team in offense and defense is more of a 5-man swarm. And you're a point guard, but if you get the ball and there's space, you're pushing it up the court. It doesn't matter who has it. What do you guys think?
No, I agree. Amari Williams, and think about this. He only played 19 minutes. So 19 minutes, he gets the double-double pretty easily. And like you said, a couple of those turnovers definitely wasn't his fault. I agree. I saw everybody kind of crashing the glass. I think Andrew Carr only had 2 or 3 rebounds. Obviously you want to see him.
And he's 5-6 as well from the field. So he's very efficient from the field.
Oh, yeah, most definitely. I saw Jackson Robinson crash in the glass multiple times. So I think you're right. When the guard
rebounds angry.
Yeah, he does, man. His defense is. I knew he was a good defender, but last night he showed me something I didn't realize. And if you think about it, he only scored, I think, 8 points. He's probably our best player, and that's what's so great about this team. At any given night, it's somebody else's night. Like Ortega, I knew he was good, but last night, like in exhibition games, he kind of proved it too. But again, with him, I think he had the most minutes. He's a freak athlete.
He physically, him and Amari are the two guys. And then look, Lamont brings a different, because Lamont's kind of like a linebacker playing a point guard, right? He's bullish.
Yeah.
But like Ortega and Amari are the two guys from a physicality standpoint that can bully a game, right? I don't think we have that. I think we got a lot of finesse players in some other roles. But like that was the part that impressed me. And Amari looks big. Like some dudes on a court, when you're like Andrew Carr does not look 6'10" on the court. Amari Williams looks like a fucking boat. Like he looks like a tank. That is a big man. And I mean, his handles, he is fast, his court vision. We haven't seen him with his outside game yet. Like, I think there's going to be a game where he really changes it from outside shooting perspective, because he's got that. He shoots almost 40% from three. We haven't seen that yet.
Yeah, I mean, we saw him putting the ball on the floor, and one that stood out to me in the second half, he gets a rebound and he puts it down a dribble just to, kind of turn it around almost lackadaisically to an extent. The guard for them comes under him, tries to steal it, and he gets down and does a little crossover and gets by the guy. Now he's off and running. And I'm like, when did 7-footers start doing that so casually? Like, why are we crossing over guards as a 7-foot center who's, has 13 rebounds on the game?
You ready for this? The plus minus in the game: Andrew Carr plus 32, Amari plus 30, and Ortega plus 31. You're gonna win games with those.
Yeah, it turns out that starting lineup's really good.
They only played 20 minutes.
I think the thing that was also a little bit impressive that maybe this team didn't fully you didn't see it in the exhibition games. You didn't see it. You saw some swag last night. And I think that was like that little thing where all the Kentucky fans were like, ooh, I like that. That play when Kirk Krista threw the blind pass and Kobe Bryant shoots the ball and turns around before that. I mean, let's go, and turns around, starts talking. You're just like, yeah, I'm just sitting here like, if this some bitch does this in like a big, like, you imagine if he does that against like Louisville or something like that, Rupp's going to lose their damn mind.
Brea is somebody that
he's a bad man.
That impressed me. He impressed me a lot. Obviously, he shot the ball really well, and that's great. But he impressed me putting the ball on the floor. He had a couple plays, especially later in the second half. He went it like between three guys, kind of like that Steph against the Clippers plays.
He missed a gimme.
Yeah, but he did the kind of put it between three guys, stepped back, spin move, threw a laser. It was kind of things that point guards are doing, and I didn't expect Kobe Bryant to come out and pull out stuff like that. But the whole team, I see, they refuse to look when they pass. They refuse to look.
I mean,
they look the opposite direction every time.
The thing about this game, and I think that we haven't seen since probably like I would say the Fox Monk team, of like a team that just comes out and just steps on your neck, takes your soul, and then kind of giggles the rest of the game. Because I mean, that game was over 6 minutes in. I mean, it was done. It was never in doubt. But that's the thing I think about, like that. I think Kentucky probably could have dropped 135 last night if they would have like kept the gas on and played. And they were a little unlucky not to score probably 115, because at the end, in the last 2 minutes, they missed about 4 or 5 wide open threes. They end up shooting for the game 46.7%. Or sorry, I lied. 45.8% from three, 60% from the field overall. Free throws are the things that I'm sitting here going like, please don't let that be the thing that bites us in the ass. Like, we're constantly in that 60 to 70. Now, we don't shoot a lot of free throws, but like, we got a lot of guys that can shoot. Can we shoot 85, 90%? Like we should, right?
On free throws, they went 14 of 19, missed 5. Amari missed 4 of the 5. It's not a team problem. It's an Amari problem.
But yeah, but that's a worry, because Amari's that kind of guy that Amari, Lamont, Otega. Those are the three guys that are going to probably shoot the vast majority of free throws for this team this season.
It is, and that's something that I was concerned. Yeah, go ahead, Jeff. My bad.
Oh, you're good. I was just going to say, and if you look at the field goal percentage, like you said, there was gimmies that we missed. And can we tell Lamont Butler, if you can't dunk, just lay it in with your left hand? He got hung twice on dunks.
That was weird. I mean, Lamont Butler, so Lamont finishes the game with 14 points, should have had 18 points, and he would have upped our field goal percentage to about 62%. Now, like, it doesn't matter. We're just nitpicking at this point, right?
Yeah.
But like now, maybe in a closer game, he's going for the surefire bucket, right? Like the game was basically over at that time. I think we were up 20, 25 when he. Yeah. So, like, you know, I there's not a lot I think last night to nitpick on, because you saw everything that I've talked about in looking at practice and the preseason and everything. You saw it go up a notch. Defensive intensity, rebound, even though it looks like from a rebounding perspective, like maybe we're weak, it is that like Lamont Butler is going to go get it. Kirk Reese is going to go, like, everyone's attacking. It's not just like in the Cal offense, it was like the two bigs rebound and the guards get up the floor. In the Pope offense, it's everyone crash the boards and whoever gets it's kind of like rec ball in that aspect. You catch it and you go because everybody can handle the rock. Everybody pushes up. Now, I will tell you, Brandon Garrison doing that does scare me a little bit. But I will tell you, Amari Williams, you know who he looks like when he sees that? He looks a hell of a lot like Bam Adebayo in the NBA now.
I've been thinking that for like 10 minutes now, and I've been waiting to say that he looks like Bam. And I'm really mad that you just took that from me, because I've been waiting to say that for so long.
I'm a Heat fan.
That's annoying. It does. He looks like Bam.
I do want to remind people, though, on the rebounding, because I saw that as one worry from a lot of fans. They shot like 27 threes, and when the misses are happening, they're a long miss. And so we are crashing. The ball's getting over us. And so a lot of those rebounds is more of they're getting second chance opportunities because of the 27 threes that they shot last night. They only hit 5 of them. So just keeping that in mind when you're looking at the rebounds.
I think
we out-rebounded them though, didn't we?
Yeah, we did, but I saw people online saying, "Hey, they're getting a lot of second chance opportunities because of offensive rebounds."
Well,
but it's because the long.
You're not gonna, you're not gonna face the team. They shot 24. Oh, sorry, that was us. They shot 27 threes.
Yeah,
we shot 24. So they are 5 of 27. We were 11 of 24. So you're not going to get that as much every game.
Exactly.
I also think one of the things that Pope was talking about more was the offensive rebounding, and so I think that people have kind of made that as rebounding as a whole that we didn't see as much last game. But Pope's really talked about the offensive rebounding not being very good, and again in the first half it wasn't. I think they only had 1 at halftime. But it seems like they made it a point of emphasis in the halftime speech, because they came out and had 6 in the second half. And I know Garrison had at least 1. Chandler had a long offensive rebound, so that it seemed like they were sticking more on the offensive end and getting more of those long rebounds that they were missing, that they weren't getting in the first half.
Yeah. So let's switch gears a little bit and kind of look. We'll go back to this obviously, but let's switch gears and look around the league. Or not necessarily around league, around college basketball. Just talk a little bit. Kansas won 87-57, pretty easy. Alabama won 110-54. Houston wins 97-40 over Jackson State. Iowa State beats Mississippi Valley State 83-44. We'll talk about this one for a minute. And I think this one's probably one of the biggest shocks of the night was Gonzaga absolutely boat racing Baylor. Like, boat racing Baylor. They won by 40 freaking points. If I'm looking at that and I see the number 6 team beat the number 8 team by 38, I'm sitting there looking at that Gonzaga game going, man, I really hope we should. Like, Gonzaga. Like, Baylor is a pretty hot pick for people for the national title this year. They're athletic. They're big. Maybe they just had an opening game and they're not playing well. But my God, when you come out with a statement, that's a statement of intent. To me, just for that alone, next week Gonzaga should be ranked number 1. It's the most impressive win. Like if you beat a top 10 team by 40 in the first week, nobody else is playing a game like that, you should be ranked number 1.
That's part of why I wish the rankings didn't come out until like 3 or 4 weeks in. I've always said that is because you're getting like Texas A&M. They lost. What was they ranked 13th? You
Bro,
know,
where are
and
you?
so
We're
like,
going to get to all these games. Stop jumping ahead. Talk about the game
sorry.
we're on now.
Let's get back to Gonzaga. I saw that. I didn't watch the game last night. I woke up, I saw VJ posterize Mark Few's son. But other than that, I saw that was insane. He almost jumped him over him. That was crazy. But I saw that box score. I hope to see some highlights later on. But like you said, yeah, they're ranked number 1 in my book as well.
Gonzaga had 5 players in double figures yesterday. They played 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 guys, and 11 of the 12 scored. It's gonna
Gonzaga.
It's a good recipe right there.
Baylor was pretty much just standing there and letting their guys go one-on-one. It looked like a bunch of dudes that had been put together from the transfer portal for the first time.
Nembhard didn't even play well.
Gonzaga just absolutely smothered them.
Think about that. Gonzaga won by 40, and Nembhard only scored 6.
He had 11 assists, though.
I mean, I get it, but he's got more than 6 points in him. Like, he's also been playing college football for as long as Nebuchadnezzar was on the throne and freaking, whatever. I just was starting to say, and I was going to say something crazy, but never mind. I lost my train of thought.
What was going to be? He only had 4 points. He was supposed to be the top 5 draft pick.
DJ Edgecombe.
Yeah, 4 points.
Yeah. I mean, Norshad Omier was about the best player on that. I mean, I actually think that if he would have stayed at Miami probably would be a top 25 team right now. I mean, he's a different. Miami. I mean, look, Miami. In fairness for them, lost a lot of players. I mean. Nigel Pack was hurt. Luka Poplar. I mean, they lost I think they lost 3 or 4 starters early in the year, and that didn't help their season whatsoever.
I'm just picking at you.
So kind of going down the list,
and I'll say Edgecombe's problem is he was not a productive 3-point shooter, not super effective, and with the ISO stuff, they were kind of having him go one-on-one with 2 other dudes that aren't great shooters on the court. Mm-hmm. And we've been watching for 8 years. That doesn't really work anymore. So that's going to be a big problem for them. They're going to have to find more shooting in the front court because the 3 of them really can't play together. Edgecombe and the 2 bigs.
Duke took care of Maine 96-62. It was a little bit closer in the first half. Cooper Flagg got 18 points. It was 0-4 from 3. I'm not sure that really means a whole lot. We can read into it, but we play them in, a week. North Carolina beat Elon 90-76. Arizona wins 93-64 over Canisius. Tennessee wins 80-64 over Gardner-Webb. Texas A&M goes on the road to UCF. Texas A&M's ranked 13th in the nation. What was the SEC preseason? Was A&M picked to finish 2 or 3?
3's behind Alabama and Auburn. That's what I saw.
I'm telling you right now, whoever's watched us play basketball in the first little bit and picked us to finish 8th is probably wishing that they had a redo. A&M was picked to finish 5th. Sorry. Alabama, Auburn, Tennessee, Arkansas, A&M, Florida, Texas, Kentucky. And 2 of those picks look really stupid already. And Jaden, we lost Jaden because of the internet. I'm sure Jaden will be back in a minute. We kind of talked about this yesterday, that could be an interesting game going on the road at UCF, because UCF, you never really know with their athletics because they are most people don't know this. They're the biggest school in Florida. They do have a ton of money and they can go out and get, players and stuff. We talked about this being potentially a trap game and a surprise, and Shazam, it was a trap game and a surprise. Were you shocked by how that game went down?
Oh, absolutely. I didn't think so I did a parlay, and I had Texas A&M just to win. They were favored by 25 points, and they lost. So if you had UCF, you made a lot of money. But I ended up looking back at some of the stats, and it looks like Taylor, they ride or die by Taylor, and he had a really bad shooting night. He went 4 from 11 from threes. They ended up losing by 3 points. So he took a lot of bad shots, it looks like. So, I mean, that's the difference of the game, really. Taylor, if he's
Taylor
not
was
going.
8 of 20. He was 8 of 26.
Yeah.
Himself.
That's crazy.
8 of 20.
Yeah.
That's like some Allen Iverson bullshit from like the 90s NBA.
Yeah. That's a lot of shots for one guy. So
Payne led A&M in scoring with 15. But yeah, you can't go 8 of 26 on your own. I know Taylor is like they go by it's live and die with A&M with their 2 guards. If they're on, they can beat a lot of people. If not, they can't. But that I know that was definitely, I think, a big surprise. Well, let me rephrase it. It was a surprise, but it was one of those. I don't think it was a shock, right? Like, I think the difference between a surprise and a shock is kind of close. Trying to get. I don't know if Jaden's back in or not. I can't see him.
He's got AOL internet, man. He's got to put another CD in to his desktop.
Yeah, it's
there he is.
Where he's back. Jaden, were you surprised about A&M losing to UCF last night?
I mean, yes, I was surprised by A&M losing to UCF last night. Sorry, I think my internet box like just reset as I was just sitting here, which there's no reason for it to have done that. But yeah, obviously not a lot of points scored in the game, which is something that stands out. Wade Taylor did not shoot good. Washington didn't shoot good. I mean, it's just kind of what A&M does, right? If the guys aren't on, then they lose, and if the 2 guys are on, then they win the game probably. So it's the same kind of thing that we see with A&M all the time, and we saw it again, and they lost to a team that they probably shouldn't have, just because they rely on a couple guys, and those guys went cold for a game. So I think that's a flaw in A&M, and something that we've seen for a couple years now, and something you would think they would have addressed better. But at least through one game, I mean, it's one game, but at least through one game, doesn't appear to have been done.
Kind of going down the list again. Purdue beats Corpus Christi 90-73. Marquette takes care of Stony Brook 102-62. Another game that's somewhat of a surprise, again, with 2 teams that are on Kentucky's schedule. Ohio State beats Texas 80-72. Texas was picked to finish above Kentucky in the SEC, another top 25 team. Jaden just disappeared all over again. Jaden is having technical difficulties in every aspect of the word, I feel like. Were you surprised? We talked about this game, right? 2 big names. Everybody thought Texas was going to probably run away with it. I did say I'm not sold on Texas basketball. I'm just going to be honest with you. I've never been sold if you've listened to anything we've talked about. Do you think that is that a surprise to you? Obviously, Kentucky plays Ohio State and Texas.
Yeah, I would agree. I don't think either one of those teams scare me. And I honestly didn't know that game was last night, so I dropped the ball on that one. So Ohio State beating Texas doesn't shock me at all. Did Aaron Bradshaw end up getting in for Ohio State last night? I wonder.
Started.
Oh, he started.
For
Wow.
21 minutes.
Well, I know he was injured for a little bit there, so I wasn't sure if he was cleared yet to play or not. So I've been keeping
an eye on.
21 minutes.
He had
2 points, 1 rebound, 1 for 5, 0 for 2 from 3.
Yeah.
So
I didn't even remember it. I got to be honest with you. Didn't even remember that name.
Wow. Yeah. He
mentioned it.
Ohio State playing good without Michi Johnson playing good on offense was the part that surprised me the most, was that they were able to kind of do what A&M wasn't, which was create when their star wasn't creating. At least one of their offensive stars.
So I guess there's a question there. Is Ohio State better than we thought? Is Texas worse than we thought? Obviously, it's just one game, a lot of basketball to go. But it's interesting, right? Cincinnati beats Arkansas Pine Bluff 109-54 in a game that was a little bit closer than people thought. South Florida loses to Florida 98-83. South Florida actually had the lead at halftime in a big second half by Florida outscored them by 16 to get the win. Sorry, 98-83. It was a 93-83. But they needed a very big second half to win that game. Was that a little surprising to you? Do you just think it was just a slow start and a lot of emotion for you for USF?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a slow start. They honestly didn't pull away from that game until like the last 7 minutes of it. So if you woke up and just saw that box score, you're like, oh, they easily won that game. That they were in a dogfight until about 7 minutes left. So, it's first game jitters, and a lot of these people are trying to figure out the system still. So it's common to see people like this on game day just not show up yet, and it takes 2 or 3 games. And so that's why, again, I wish they didn't do rankings or anything until for 4 or 5 games within the season, but it doesn't work. Florida will be fine, I think. I don't know if we're going to get to South Carolina, but I think that's a different story.
So looking around, just to round out the top 25, UCLA wins 85-50. Ole Miss takes care of Long Island 90-60. Just kind of going to take a look around.
Memphis beat Missouri was kind of a
SEC,
one.
Pulling up the rest of the SEC now.
Missouri was up for a long time in that game, and then Memphis, or they were at least up late, and Memphis kind of came back and won it at the end.
So yeah,
I didn't catch it live, but
Memphis played at home, so at least that's something. I listen. I mean, were we thinking that Missouri was going to be good at basketball this year? Because I wasn't.
No, I was honestly more shocked that they were winning late in the game, and then when I had kind of seen what happened, I was less shocked. But it was at least notable that Missouri held in it for a while. And doesn't Memphis have somebody that's like suspended for the year or not playing or something? Didn't they cheat for somebody again this year?
I don't remember.
I don't know.
North Florida goes into Columbia and beats South Carolina 74-71. I mean, that's not a very good start for South Carolina, even though I don't think a lot of people thought that they were going to be very good this year. Obviously, people didn't think they were going to be good last year. They ended up being decent. But that's a bad loss to start the season.
Bad loss. Not only that, they let Meechie Johnson walk out and go back home to Ohio State. They had so much NIL they could have worked with him on, and he was their best player, so they literally just let him walk, and now they're seeing the effects of it. I mean, they looked terrible last night. North Florida is terrible, so that's a bad loss for them.
Mississippi State wins 95-60. Georgia squeaks out a win by the hair of their chinny chin chin against Tennessee Tech. 83-78. Although Georgia's picked to finish, kind of low, bottom third in the SEC. Vanderbilt takes care of Maryland. East Shore, there's so many teams I didn't even know existed. 102-63, and Oklahoma beats Lindenwood 93-60. I think it is a little shocking because in the first game, obviously, in basketball, it's different because in football, you can get some big matchups week one. You don't usually see some upsets and some teams like that losing week one. Is this like an omen for college basketball is going to be psycho this season? Do you think it's just an outlier first game jitters because of NIL and a lot of guys moving? What do you guys think?
Well, I think normally when you're setting up a schedule, you want your first or second game to kind of be buy games where you're buying wins. And we're seeing now with NIL, a lot of teams, the parity is basically a lot more condensed. And so a lot of the teams that normally didn't have a chance, they can go buy a player here and there and really build up a roster. And so I think the parity is just different now. And so you are going to continue to see this until we get some type of revenue sharing in the NCAA where it makes it fair across the board. You're going to continue to see upsets like this.
Even that's not going to be fair because it's going to be percentage of revenue. Kentucky's going to be basically top. Kentucky's going to go to a top dog from that perspective.
There's a salary cap on it, though.
No, it's based off revenue.
There's a cap though. It's 23 million or 22 million.
Yeah, but Kentucky's in the top. Like, if you have to still have it, right? Like,
yeah, you have to have 22 million, but there is a cap. I think that might be across your whole athletic department is 23 million.
The issue with that though is teams like Bucknell or Charlotte or whoever else is, lower teams that do these upsets. they're not going to have $22 million to play with. They're going to have like $1 million. And so that's where the parity disappears because of they won't have the $22 million to play with.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's never a fair way to make Bucknell competitive.
No, it's gonna be very interesting, I think, from that perspective. All right, so real quick, just on like some football news, or not necessarily football news. I don't know what it is about Paul Feinbaum coming out and saying all these things about, like, he comes out the other day and says, John Summerall is going to be like the top, like is the top thing if Stoops, and he, this is like the second or third time he's talking about Stoops leaving. Listen, I don't know if he's just trying to sound smart, if he knows something that other people don't. Whether you guys want to believe it or not, I'm pretty connected when it comes to football. I am telling you from inside and outside. I asked the question and I said, is Stoops going to leave? And it was told flat out no. Like, actually, it says no shot. It got walked back a little under like specific circumstances, none of which is if we go 1-3 the rest of the season. There's literally nothing there. Now, I believe, because things are in human nature, and especially in college athletics, because you see that, I don't ever believe in exclamation points and think that they things can always change. 4 weeks of this, and it could be like, your whole mindset. But as of today, two things. Number one, I do not believe John Summerall is the number one person. I have names. I'm not going to mention them because it's just probably not right to do so right now with most of these guys either in jobs and stuff like that.
Our job's also not open.
Yeah, our job's not open. Even if it was, I don't think it would be him. And number two, Mark Stoops, as of this moment, there's no plan to go anywhere. Like, things are well in motion in 2025, what they're wanting to do. Players are talking about, they can land a top 15, potentially a top maybe a fringe top 10 class this season. There's a lot of guys they're still in on. They've got a lot of talent coming in. I think if there's anything you're thinking about, I'd say offensive coordinator, I'd say would be a potential that you might lose. I mean, I'd say there's an outside chance Brad White might go for a head coaching job somewhere, maybe at like a good power group of 5 school, or potentially a power 4 school. I mean, I don't know, but that would be something that I would keep an eye on. I mean, we're 124th in the nation in offense. I don't know how Hamden survives with that. I just don't. I don't think so. I mean, I think that's a bad look. I think if that happens, I think Stoops has to go out and get an offensive coordinator that could potentially take his job. I think that's what he has to do. And it's not a good look, but you got to do it. You got to go get someone that's so well known in that arena, because I think that's where the fans will at least say, well, there's no way that Mark's going to bully him around, or right. And it needs to be a modern philosophy, and he needs to just say, I'm not going to touch this whatsoever. I'm bringing in a guy to score a lot of fucking points, and we're going to keep teams from scoring a lot of fucking points, and we're going to see what happens next year. Go do that. I have not heard anything on Barryon Brown. I've not heard anything on Trayvon Ripka, and I've not heard anything on Brock Vandegrift. I have asked, obviously, we all know what's going on with Brock. That's a matter of, right. It's always a serious thing when it comes to head injuries. And we want to, you don't ever want to rush a kid back in that situation, because we're dealing with life, and that from that perspective. Barryon went to the hospital. You saw Barryon then on the sideline again. I think they may have been worried about a punctured lung. The fact that he was on the sidelines again makes me think that it probably isn't as bad.
Some of the reporting is that it's not as serious as they thought. That's at least what I've seen. I don't know. That's not my reporting. That's stuff that
Listen, you could have a bruise. You could have bruised ribs, and you're not going to play the rest of the game because you just can't. You can't breathe. It hurts to breathe. It hurts to move. You get hit. Yeah, I mean, he could have a minor rib fracture, and he's on the sidelines. He's not going to do anything about it, right? You can't do anything. So there's a lot of things that he could still have been hurt to not play. And then Trayvon Ripka, we never saw come back. I've not seen what's going on with him. Obviously, this is huge for Kentucky to have 2 weeks off. I wish it would have been for Tennessee, but anyway, it's not. So I just wanted to give that little bit of a football kind of a piece there. Look, I think everybody's in the same boat of what they're wanting. I think we're wanting change. I think change can come without the head coach potentially changing. I think there can be philosophical changes. I think there can be things and players that Kentucky. I know Kentucky's in on some big people. Like, again, I'm not going to say names, but they're 4 and 5 star kids. I know that they're in on them, and guys that are going to go in the transfer portal, like guys that can come here next year, and Kentucky can compete next year, right? So I would take some of that with a grain of salt. I think you're probably going to see a couple guys maybe move on. That might be the smart thing, because after a year like this and you don't perform, I think it's probably good to bring in different players and some different perspectives. I think you're probably going to see, especially on the offensive side, I think you'll see more turnover than on the defensive side. On the defensive side, I'm actually really encouraged with some of the young guys that played this weekend. I thought the defense played, for the most part, really, really solid. I thought some of the young kids played pretty well. And I think the future's bright there, and you can get a couple guys to come in and fill those holes. So obviously no game this weekend, but it's going to be it's still interesting to see what happens the rest of the year, and seeing if for whatever reason Brock is out for a prolonged period of time, where we go with the quarterback. And if nothing else, that's something to talk about, right? Like, and you want to see something different, at least. I think that's what people would like to see.
So two things from the comments you just made. One, on November 5th, 2023, was Stoops and A&M a thing? Like, when we say things can change, is like, A&M can change things kind of thing. Like,
I don't know. I mean, look, I think there's just a big part of the fact that he doesn't want to go anywhere, right?
Yeah,
I mean, that you got to put that in.
I think November 5th last year, he would have also said that.
Well, I think last year there was some rumblings of the fans that were getting a little bit, and then obviously we beat Louisville.
South Carolina hadn't happened yet, though. That was when things got bad.
Yeah, look, again, I'm not. All I'm telling you is what, and I think in sports, too many people want to say, "Ha, look what you said, you were wrong." Like, bro, like a week in sports is like a fucking dog year. Like,
that's why I was just asking the question.
Yeah. Look, that's why. Like, I'm not saying that look, Kentucky goes 1-4 the rest of the way and looks really ugly. He might just go, listen, this is toxic. We're going to probably lose recruits. It's going to be hard. No, people aren't going to want to come into it. Like, it's better just to start all over and work something out to go. Maybe he does that. Maybe Iowa comes open and he goes, you know what? That's a good. And Iowa goes, hey, we'll give you $8.5 million to come here. And Kentucky goes, well, we won't. We'll waive the buyout, and everybody else. Maybe Florida State does it. I got to tell you right now, I don't know how Norville survives. Napier looks like a guy who might survive at this point, because now he's got a third string quarterback, and they probably would have beat Georgia. So who knows how that goes. I think there's a lot of interesting unknowns. Like, I mean, Ryan Day dude, if you want to talk about a fan base flip-flop, at 10-0, it was Ryan Day might not go back to Columbus, and then now it's James Franklin's not won a game. If he doesn't get Penn State going, he might be out. That narrative flipped in a half, right? Like, so those are the things why I say what I do. And yeah, I agree on November 5th last year, but I think it's going to take something interesting for that to happen. I don't want us to go 1-3 to finish the season. Like, I don't want that to happen, obviously. I would love to go 4-0 and everybody just is happier, but I don't think that's going to happen. But it could. I mean, look, this team could go and beat Texas. I still think they could do that. I think they could have beat Tennessee. I just don't know. I just think offensively, I never have enough. I think we have enough to be in the game, but not enough to finish it.
Yeah. I do think if we finish 1-3, like you had mentioned, obviously that's probably a Murray State win. We lost to Louisville. If Florida State were to make some changes, it would probably be on the defensive side when it comes to maybe a new coordinator job. And
ain't happening.
I could see Stoops going back to be a DC.
0%. 100% chance of it, 0%. No shot. If he leaves, he's going to be a head coach. So 3 things are going to happen. Mark Stoops will be the head coach of Kentucky. Mark Stoops is going to say, I'm done coaching, or Mark Stoops is going to go somewhere else and coach. That is the only 3 options. He's not going to be a defensive coordinator. I can guarantee you that, because he's not getting fired. That's not happening. That's an off-the-table piece.
It's just money. He's not going to he'll go somewhere and be a head coach for, worst case scenario, like $3.5 million. And as a coordinator, he'd make $1.5.
But I mean, look, if you take this,
if things went real bad in the coaching carousel, worst case scenario, he'd make $3.5 million.
I don't think he's going to go anywhere. That's not. I think your names are your name.
That's what I'm saying. DC is not really an option, is because the money doesn't make sense.
But I think it's Iowa. I think it's outside shot Florida State. Right. I mean, maybe an Arkansas takes a fly at him. I mean, you could maybe you'd see a team like Arkansas could go for someone like that. I don't see that. I don't. But like at the same time, everybody's got to understand, are you walking away from $44 million? Like, there's no part of you that goes, you know what? Like, and the fans that say this, you know what? Why you had a good run. I don't want it to be stale and everything. I'm just going to do what's right and leave. Fucker, no, you wouldn't do that shit. There's $44 fucking million on the line. You are not walking away from that. And no matter what you want to say about Stoops, go yell at Mitch Barnhart for fucking putting a dumbass contract like that out there. Like, that's the aspect of this whole thing. Mark's not going to walk. I wouldn't walk away from $44 million. Nobody would. Like, so, like, we got to at least stop from that and be honest with ourselves. Like, no human beings walking away from $44 fucking million. Like, yeah, you might come and say, I don't, you know what, $44 million and $20 million. Okay, like, I'll take it and I'll go coach somewhere else in a year. I'll take a year off. Maybe he does that. I don't see that happening either. I think your best bet is that. I don't think Florida State would hire him after this season. I think Florida State needs to go get like a big name head coach. Whether or not they can go get a big name head coach, that is the question, because they are limited. They've got some big buyouts they've had to do. They had Jimbo's buyout. They had who's the guy after him that they had?
Like on the name. I was just trying to think of it right when you were talking.
Then go get Deion Sanders. He'll gladly come here.
Deion Sanders is like, that's the thing. Like, if FSU opens up, it's Deion or bust. They ain't going to Mark Stoops, right?
Yeah, exactly.
But I also think FSU would be attractive to Kiffin. I think that would be an attractive job for him.
Oh yeah.
I still
Taggart.
Willie Taggart, that's right. I still think that Josh Heupel to Oklahoma has a lot of legs, and I think Oklahoma's probably going to make a move. I just don't think it. And I'm telling you right now, Oklahoma's got the money, and Josh Heupel is going to go coach. Josh Heupel will be the coach at Oklahoma, whether it's next year, 2 years, 3 years. I'm telling you right now, Tennessee better get ready to go do a head coaching search, because he's not staying at Tennessee. That ain't gonna happen.
Oklahoma's got the resources. I agree. It was smart.
I'm just trying to think.
He won a national title at Oklahoma. What, Jaden?
Yeah. I'm just trying to think about some of the ways that this could affect Kentucky. Like, if Tennessee loses their coach, do they come after Vince and throw him a bag? I know he hates him, but money talks. Like, I'm trying to think if there are some circles where we can get some assistants picked off by some of these schools.
I think there's some loyalty with some guys. I think if Brad White were to leave, I think it'd be for a head coaching job. I think if Vince leaves, Vince is just it would be done. I don't know. I don't think Vince at this point is going to go anywhere. He's very well compensated for the type of role that he has. I don't think he's going to go anywhere. I think it's basically, if Mark leaves, then you see it. I don't think we're seeing that. Where this affects Kentucky is if it, let's say you have, let's just say, for the hypothetical of the argument, let's say Florida opens, Tennessee opens, Arkansas opens, Auburn opens. Who else potentially could open?
Florida State.
Florida State. Penn State potentially could open if Franklin doesn't get him to the playoffs. All right, so there's 7 teams right there. Let's just say 7 bigger name teams. And I'm trying to think if there's anyone else maybe like that's kind of like a
Alabama
outlier. Nah, they ain't getting rid of the board this year. there's 7 teams right there, right? Like that I think that you could say that's where it affects Kentucky, because if they don't make a move and then guys come off the board you want, now guys can come off the board that you don't, right? I get it. It's cyclical. I think people are overreacting. Oh, Summerall might go to Auburn. All right, listen. Cool, he might go to Auburn. Tell me a group of 4 coach who's gone to the SEC or the Power 4 now from the group of 4 that's been very successful in recent years.
I mean, I don't have that off the top of my head. I don't have that off the top of my head.
Can anybody think of one? Because I can't. I don't know one group of. I don't know. Now, it doesn't mean that he's not going to be a good coach at this level, but Willie Taggart, you have Napier, you have Norvell. There's a long list of guys that have gone from the group of 5 to the Power 4 that were big guys that they wanted, that hot names. The only one right off is the guy from the guy at Indiana. He's having a hell of a year. Now, whether that's sustained or not, whether that's a one-off, or it's the fact they really haven't played a ton of people. Like, they haven't really played a top 15 school yet. I mean, if they go into Ohio State and lose by 30, you're kind of like frauds, right? We don't know. We don't know that. So if he's basically the only one that I can think of, even in the last 4 or 5 years, that's had marginal success taking the jump from group of 5 to the Power 4.
I'm just trying to look it up and see. It looks like Hugh Freeze, when he went to Ole Miss the first time, went one year at Arkansas. Ago. Yeah, 1 year at Arkansas State, and then went to Ole Miss.
That was the Land Sharks. Remember, that was back way back when.
I know. I'm looking through. Ole Miss is like the second team that I found.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
I was just trying to play.
That's the part of this. You're seeing high-end coordinators from title contending teams that are under the tutelage of coaches that are highly successful, going to other schools, and that's where you're seeing the success rate. Or you're seeing guys from like a Vanderbilt, an Arkansas, those types of places going from that. I guess Heupel is one that you could go, because Heupel was at UCF. Who?
Drinkowitz at Missouri.
Yeah, but are they successful?
I mean, they're ranked better than we are.
I mean, sure, but they've also played nobody. I mean, like,
I'd rather be them than us.
I mean, sure, I'd rather have not played 6 top 15 teams either. But here's the question: is Missouri much better than us with that schedule?
They've played a whole lot better than us. On paper, they're not that much.
I'd take our roster over theirs.
I mean, I don't know about all that, but Missouri's not, like, if you look at Missouri and you put them against us, like, they beat Vandy in overtime at home. All right. So they barely beat one team we lost to. Do you think they beat Georgia? No. Do they beat Ole Miss? I don't think so. I think they lose that game. Do they beat Florida? Probably not. Do they beat Tennessee? Doubt it. I don't know a game. If you line up the schedule, maybe they beat Auburn, or they beat Auburn, they beat Vandy. They beat Auburn and Vandy, right? And barely.
Yeah.
So if you look at that and then the rest of the schedule, they're mildly better than us. It's not like, and like they were talking about playoffs and all that, and even last year they weren't that good. So I won't know. I don't want to say Drinkwitz, because they had the easiest path to the playoffs, and they're not going this year. Like, it was a layup, and they botched it. Like, they're already done.
Yeah, I mean, they still, like, last year they would have been in the playoffs, like, playing essentially the same schedule as us. So I think that's still something to consider. I would call him a success. He's better than Missouri had been before.
Yeah, but their margins were also close, right? Like, they basically pulled a 2018 Kentucky, and they just got all the bounces. Like, even 2018 Kentucky, we had a really good defense. Our offense was not good, and we squeaked by and got 10 wins. And they squeak by and win those games, and they get Ohio State team with 18 players that opt out, and they barely win the game. Now, listen, they still won the game, but that's where, like, to me, schedule comes into play. And I know coaches will say, "Oh, you play the teams that are in front of you." Yeah, okay. Well, you know what? I'd love to play some of the teams that are in front of other teams' schedule. Let's put it that way. Our schedule is hard.
Yeah, you also
How
lost
much
the three
longer?
trash games, though.
How much longer do you think we play Louisville in football?
I think that just depends on. I mean, I would keep playing them. I mean, honestly, like, at least I know I'm gonna get. At least I know I'm gonna get my players' best effort in that game, and I'm not gonna go play, a Bowling Green State when Bowling Green gets a shit ton of transfers in, and they have some up and coming fiery head coach, and they come in on a 12 o'clock in September, and when you're barely awake and don't really want to play, and come in and just bite you in the ass. It happens all the time. I would rather keep them. I think. I mean, Brom's not done anything that scares me. I mean, okay, maybe they beat us this year, but I mean, they're not good. You talk about beating Clemson. I mean, I don't think Clemson's that good. I don't think Clemson was the 11th best team in the country. I think if you put Clemson if you put Louisville or Clemson in our schedule, they're maybe one game better than us. Both of them, maybe. I don't think Louisville is. I think Louisville probably would have the exact same record as us.
Yeah. I'm just curious.
I would keep playing them. I mean, I think I would, but you never know. 9 SEC games is.
Well, what do you think they do?
Fucking brutal. Who, Louisville?
Like UK administration, like the athletic department.
I think they'll probably, if it goes to a 9-game SEC schedule, they'll probably try and play them every other year. Or something like that, or maybe you go a neutral site game every 2 or 3
I was wondering
years.
if you try to make it neutral every other year.
Maybe.
Like
I mean, maybe you go playing like Cincinnati, kind of make it fun. Kentucky did that. Who'd we play? We didn't play? Huh?
They played.
Was it Cincinnati?
No, I'm thinking of a different stat.
They played at Paul Brown.
Didn't they used to play Indiana neutral? Didn't they used to play Indiana neutral every now and then?
No. They used to play Indiana home and home every year. I don't know where. I remember we played at Paul Brown Stadium, but that would be kind of a fun game, right? Go play it like Cincinnati, and you go play there and play a neutral site Kentucky game. That could be kind of fun, right? I think if you did that every other year, that would be kind of more fun to do. But who knows?
I'm trying to find your Cincinnati Kentucky game.
Do you think now that Pope is here that we start to play Indiana in basketball again?
Yeah,
we've already signed it, so we kind of have to.
Are you excited about that? Are you excited about that?
Absolutely.
I mean, see, for me, like Indiana's not the same to me because outside, like Watford happened, but outside of that, like the Indiana rivalry is not a super, angry thing.
Do you think in our lifetime we will see a home and home with Duke?
No.
Why do you think that is?
They make too much money from these neutral games.
Boy, it'd be fun though, wouldn't it? But we played everybody else. North Carolina, UCLA. I mean, we've played literally everybody else like a home and home like that. Kansas. It's not like it doesn't happen. So why don't we play Duke? Like Duke is
because we stopped doing them when we started playing all the neutral games.
Like, haven't we played UConn in a home and home in the last 25 years? I feel like we have. Maybe we haven't, but like UConn, why don't we do that? Like that would be fun. Like go to Connecticut, come let them come here. We did it with Gonzaga. Why the fuck don't we do it with like I would? Those are like fun games.
Yeah, it's a money grab though. That's the issue. They know they can sell out Madison Square Garden, Atlanta.
All right, well then go to North Carolina. They'll do it with North Carolina.
Yeah,
UConn 1 year, Duke plays home and home. The next year you can play Duke in Madison Square Garden. UConn's a home and home. Like there's plenty of games that you can do that with. Like it's not like it has to be Duke at Madison Square Garden and things like this, right? Like you can play these games that they're going to sell out. You play Kansas. I mean, literally Kansas, Duke, Baylor, Gonzaga, UConn, North Carolina. You probably could throw Baylor in the mix of that. Indiana, Louisville. You don't play anywhere. You're gonna sell it out. So I mean, there's 15 teams Kentucky could match up with, and it would be a big game. I just don't know why we don't do it because I feel like college basketball deserves Duke and Rupp and Kentucky and Cameron Indoor.
I agree. I wouldn't do it every year if we could do it like every other. The issue is SEC is so dominant now. I mean, hell, we got 11 to 12 teams that's going to be in the tournament. So you already got that on the schedule. And now you're trying to you got Louisville. They're going to be ranked. We already play that championship classic thing. So
you
Michigan
think
State
going to be ranked in basketball?
Yeah,
they're already ranked higher than us, I thought.
In basketball, they're not ranked in the top 25.
Not yet. No, they're right outside of it.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I would say with the SEC being so strong, it's hard to schedule. I mean, we're playing Gonzaga this year. We saw how they played last night. We got the Champions Classic where we rotate 3 teams every year. So we're
Duke,
playing a lot of big
State,
names.
Duke, Ohio State, Clemson,
Michigan State, Kansas.
Yeah, no, I get it. Look, obviously we're not talking about maybe like right now, but it's something that I would love to see that in the lifetime. I mean, I feel like that would probably be. I think right now in the current state, I think Duke because of the name and UConn. I actually think UConn would be a bigger draw, would be a bigger game in Rupp right now than Duke.
How you think Kentucky would get in to Duke? I know we get in everywhere, but Duke, it's hard to get a ticket there. You think UK gets in? That'd be interesting to see.
Your Duke and North Carolina home and home games are gonna come from the ACC challenge. We just happened to play Duke in our non-conference things, and they just decided not to give us. Did Clemson get decided before the CBS Classic? Did they give us a chance to play North Carolina in the CBS Classic? Or was that after?
I don't think so.
I'm trying to figure out why we're not playing North Carolina. Or maybe does North Carolina play on the road?
No, they're trying in the SEC ACC challenge to get teams that are non-traditional matchups. Like they're trying to spread it out because people honestly do, like outside of North Carolina, Kentucky. I mean, there's a little bit more interest of seeing Kentucky go to Clemson, right? How much like Kentucky fans probably wouldn't mind going down to Miami, right? Like, especially in January, those types of things. Like we haven't played Wake Forest. We haven't played NC State. Like it's fun to see those games too, because it's a game and a team that you don't ever see except if you maybe play them in a tournament. And I think that's what the ACC SEC challenge is trying to do, where they're trying to create maybe a tournament type matchup in the regular season. I wouldn't be surprised next year if we end up playing like Georgia Tech or NC State.
So do we like that?
Syracuse. That'd be nice.
Do what?
Syracuse,
yeah.
That'd be awesome.
I like that. I would rather us play teams that we don't normally or historically get to play sometimes, because you have the Champions Classic, right? You have all these different neutral site games that we play in anyway. So you got a good chance of playing Duke, North Carolina, Kansas. I mean, we haven't played UConn in a long time. But you have a good chance of playing those traditional blue bloods in those types of matchups anyway. So that, to me, that I like that better.
I feel like best case scenario is just get out of all these neutral site contracts.
Like if Duke, here's the thing,
to expire, and then
if you get Duke at a neutral site, right? Or let's just say you get Duke in the ACC SEC matchup, right? And you get it on the road, or vice versa. Someone's bitching about it, so I get it. That now next year I think we host, right? Like it's home away, home away, home.
Of a home and home.
No, but you're not getting that in the ACC SEC challenge, because if that was the case, they would play Miami. Now that would kind of be fun. Now
that's what they should have done, is what I'm saying.
I think. Listen, I don't disagree in that. Like during the season, like you play a home, like you play Miami comes here, you go to Miami. That would be way more fun, I think, too, because like think about it, right? Like let's say not last year's Miami team, but it was the year before, and let's say they came up here and lost. That game with that Miami team that went to the Final Four down in Coral Gables, that would have been a fun game to watch probably, because they ended up being really good. Last year, not so much. Kentucky probably would have boat raced in both games. But still would have been fun because you're going to an arena you don't play in very often, right? You're going to a city. I actually think that's a really good idea, Jaden. Like, play the home and home in the ACC SEC challenge. I think that would be way, way more exciting.
Well, I thought the whole point of us waiting to play Duke and Carolina is because we needed to wait to get it. Like, we needed to wait a year for the the neutral games so that we could have home and homes with them. But then they didn't do that. They messed it up again. So I don't really know what the scheduling with all that is. It doesn't make any sense.
North Carolina, we do it. We've done it. We've played North Carolina in that so much in the last 30 years. Duke's never happened. Has Duke ever played here?
Didn't they play here in the tournament that when we were hosting?
Yeah.
We didn't play against them. I'm just
but have they ever played?
Man, I couldn't tell you last time we played Virginia. That'd be a good game too. Probably not now since Tony Bennett retired, but
the last time Duke played Kentucky in Lexington was 1980.
Yeah, I was a sperm.
That shit can't happen, right? Like, that shit shouldn't happen. That you're talking about fucking what?
44 years.
44 years, and we've not played. I mean,
when's the last time we went to Camden? Cameron, sorry. Rattled.
I'm looking.
Has to have been a long time.
1958.
Also not born then.
I mean, how is that to me is literally one of the dumbest things ever. Like, Kentucky has, come on, like, for real. Like, how do we play North Carolina in the Dean Dome all the time, but we haven't played at Cam? Like, come on, Kentucky, come on, Duke, like, make this happen. This is so dumb. It's stupid shit. Like, honestly, I also think this too. Like, I know it's kind of a tradition with Florida and Georgia. How much more fun would it be if, like, look at the Auburn, like the Auburn Alabama game used to be at a neutral site game too, and then they moved it to play that home and home. That's way more. Like, could you imagine like that? Like, I love it. Like, I think neutral site regular season games are just kind of silly at this point. Like,
yeah. So let's set this up.
If the
Kentucky at Duke next year, and it's Dick Vitale's last game ever commentating. Can you imagine that? That'd get record.
I'm muting it.
Record viewing, huh?
We go in there and boat race them.
Yeah. Well, Duke and Kentucky's his two favorite teams. I'm saying that would be the game, his last game ever commentating. So
yeah,
that'd be awesome. Be awesome, baby, or whatever he says.
It's awesome, baby, with a capital A.
Yeah, are you serious?
This might get me crushed. Obviously, he's doing great things with his recovery and stuff. Last couple of years of Dick Vitale, not pleasant to listen to. He's just past his time.
He doesn't remember the PTPers, man. Like, he doesn't remember that shit.
When I was a kid, he was the voice of the game. When I was a kid, like, back then it was, but the last couple of years,
but he was the voice of the game when I was a kid, and I'm twice your age.
I know, but that's what I'm saying. It's not like my whole life I've grown up hating Dick Vitale. It's just the last couple of years I haven't thought he's been very good at it.
I'm gonna tell you what. It will be very weird when Kirk Herbstreit hangs up the headset on College Game Day.
Herbstreit's going to be the one for me. That's like that's weird that he's not involved.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of weird Corso's not there anymore, but Pat McAfee, I think, and Nick Saban definitely add a very entertaining element to College Game Day. It's definitely revamped them, and they needed it a little bit, I think. So,
Bill Raftery, all right, guys, for me.
Do what?
Bill Raftery. I love that guy, man. He's awesome.
Rafferty's a good one. You're right. The CBS games without his voice will not be the same.
Exactly. That's my point.
I feel like I've watched. You want to talk about North Carolina games? I feel like I've watched Tim Collis play North Carolina 840 times in my life.
Yeah, you know what I almost miss now is the CBS games, because listening to Jordan Rodgers call football games makes my head bleed. He might be one of the worst commentators I've ever heard. Like, he just talks. He says stuff where you're just like, did you watch what just happened? Like, this is what good teams do. Motherfucker, they're 3-6. What are you talking about?
He's with Kubelik and Hart, right? That's the guy we had Saturday, right?
Oh God, so bad, so fucking bad. Like,
see, I think Kubelik is awesome. He's my favorite. I love Kubelik.
So
he's such a nerd.
That duo just makes me want to throw my head into the freaking wall. I mean, like Kubelik gets excited, right? Like Ray Davis, all day Ray. Like, I mean, it's like every now and then, but then you got to listen to Jordan Rogers' dumbass come over the top, and you're just like, fuck. Like, yeah, oh my God, oh my God, I just had a seizure. It's so bad. I don't think we got to worry about it for Murray State. I think we got to go through it one more fucking time, though, against Texas. We got one more time. We got to listen to Jordan Rogers.
Please put that game at noon. Put the game at noon. Yes, please.
No, Texas is already a night game, brother.
Is it already a night game?
Oh, yeah. Tennessee. So this is the last early game. Texas and the earliest game Louisville can be is 3:30. Same thing with Texas.
Okay, so Texas can still be 3:30. Give it to me at 3:30, please. I don't want to wait all day to get blown out again. I'm tired of it.
We're gonna do the watch party again. We're gonna do the watch along with Duke. We had 1,500 people on, so we're gonna see if we can do that again. We're gonna do the watch along with Texas. And then we go into Louisville, and we just talk a lot of shit because it's Louisville, and hopefully something happens. Then it's all basketball, which is it's kind of depressing. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I do love basketball. I just really wanted football to be better.
Yeah,
I was really looking forward to this season. I look forward to football season so much, and I actually. This football season's been really disappointing for me in like a lot of ways because the weather's been so warm. Like, we haven't had a cold game yet. Like, I barely have had to put long sleeves on to go tailgating. Like, where is that game where it's like, oh yeah, it's 7:30. It's going to be 42 degrees. You're going to see the breath. Everyone's going to be wild. It's going to be and see, it's not been like look, the fans have been good. Like, they've showed up for every game. Yeah. Anyway,
I have
all right, guys.
A whole wardrobe of hoodies that I haven't gotten to pull out yet.
Same, man. Like, it's 80 degrees today. It's fucking November 5th. I have no clue what's going on in the world. It's crazy.
It's really hot outside.
Yeah, it is. All right, guys. Appreciate everyone listening. I'll throw this on the podcast page as well, and we'll talk to everyone tomorrow.
Okay.
Have a good one. Go Cats.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us on another episode of the Bleed Blue Network podcast. We hope you enjoyed diving deep into the world of Kentucky sports with us. Don't forget to stay connected by following us on Twitter at BleedBNation. Your feedback means the world to us. So take a moment to leave a review. Not only does it help us improve, but it also helps others discover the show. Until next time, keep cheering, keep listening, and keep bleeding blue.